She slapped the eviction notice on my front door at 7:42 in the morning, sharp as a slap, right when I was just pouring my first cup of coffee. $12,800 in supposed violations, due in 10 days, or else. That white slip flapped in the breeze like a surrender flag, but trust me, there was nothing peaceful about it. That was the moment I decided I wasn't just going to fight her. I was going to outlast every single rule she ever twisted, and I'd leave a paper trail deep enough to bury her authority right under her own rules. See, I bought this old place too. Years back, a house with real bones, old oak floors, wraparound porch, half an acre tucked into a wooded lot. My dad helped me fix the plumbing before he passed away, and I swore I'd never lose this place, no matter what the universe or any HOA president threw at me. He always said, "Home is written in sweat before it's written in ink." I didn't realize how right he was until Karen Malden, the president, introduced herself by measuring my mailbox and telling me it was 1.5 inches too tall. With that kind of smile that looks like a threat, you know? At first, I tried to play nice. Painted the curb, trimmed the lawn to that mandated 2.5 inches, nodded at her and her army of clipboards. But then she tried to find me for leaving my recycling bins out a single minute too long, so I started taking photos with timestamps. She didn't just dislike me. She made me her personal project. Letters, warnings, wellness checks, even a complaint about a birdhouse I built. The neighbors kept their distance. Fear keeps folks quiet in these neighborhoods, you know what I mean? But when that notice landed, $2,800 in fines for reasons only Karen could invent, I called Maya, my old friend and a real estate attorney. She said, "Jason, start a file. Document everything." So I did. Every letter, every picture, every date, every word. And as the house creaked at night, I kept thinking about my dad and that promise. 6 days in, I marched to the HOA office, just a rented room between a nail salon and a vape shop. Karen sat there, ready for a fight in her signature floral blazer. I asked for a compliance hearing under Section 4.6. Her eyes flickered. She didn't expect me to know the bylaws that well. I walked out angry but clear-headed, ready to study that rule book like it was my survival guide. Turns out, the HOA was supposed to maintain a 12-foot stormwater easement right behind my fence. They'd been billing everyone for years for maintenance. But city permits said it was on them, not us. The weeds and debris they fined me for were their job, not mine. That was my lever. I flagged the property, took photos, measured everything down to the inch. And like clockwork, Karen showed up, accusing me of altering common infrastructure. I told her, just documenting compliance. I made sure the camera was rolling when I did. From there, it became a war of paper. I pulled city permits, maintenance logs, sent certified letters, filed everything. Maya and I mapped out the whole scam, how they'd skipped maintenance, padded the budget, and spiked fines right after I started digging. My neighbor Earl, a grizzled old machinist, dropped off old board meeting minutes showing they'd deferred maintenance for years. They moved meetings, so folks with jobs couldn't show up, he said. They bullied us, too. Earl became my secret weapon, a witness and a symbol that it wasn't just about me. They tried to scare me with sheriff's visits, trash fines, Facebook smears, the whole parade. I kept my cool, logged every incident. Even the deputy told Karen, "This is a civil dispute, ma'am." Karen started melting down. That's when I found it, a reverter clause buried in the covenants. If the HOA failed to maintain the stormwater easement for 5 years straight, the rights reverted to the original developer, or their assigns. And guess what? 5 years of missed maintenance had just ticked by. That meant I could buy those rights for $1 and become the legal maintenance authority for the very land they'd been using as a weapon. I called the developer, inked the deal, and slid the notarized assignment into my ever-growing binder. Karen didn't see it coming. When she tried to slap another $1,000 fine on me, I let her dig her own hole. Then I dropped the bomb. I now legally controlled the easement. The city inspector backed me up. The HOA's insurer froze their coverage. Suddenly, Karen and her crew were cornered. But I wasn't after revenge. I wanted real reform. At the next board meeting, in front of 30 nervous neighbors, I laid it all out. Every photo, every permit, every dollar misused. Karen tried to bluster, but the city's stormwater tech stood up and confirmed everything. For a second, There was dead silence. Then Earl, of all people, stood and demanded his money back for all the fines he'd paid over their mess. Laughter broke the tension. Karen snapped, "This circus is over." But everyone knew it had just started. The board's authority started to unravel. More neighbors came forward. Renee, a single mom, thanked me for making her feel safe letting her kids play outside again. Maya and I drafted reforms. Term limits, mandatory budget transparency, a resident elected. Ethics committee. The next vote went 58 to 12 in favor. Karen and 2 board members resigned under investigation. The city launched audits in 3 neighborhoods because of what we uncovered. We even painted a sign by the basin that read, "This place drains because we do the work." I started this fight just trying to keep my dad's house. But by the end, I'd helped the whole neighborhood get its backbone back. Sure, Karen tried to blame me for division, but sometimes, like I told her, anger is the only antiseptic. It stings, but it cleans. The dominoes fell one by one: audits, repayments, real oversight, a new sense of community. And in the end, I shelved the binder and wrote, "Case closed. Community restored" on the spine. If you think I fought the right fight, or if you've ever stared down your own clipboard tyrant, let me know in the comments. Tell me what you'd do different, or if you think justice means going this far. Subscribe for the next chapter. And share this story so more people learn what one neighbor with a file folder and a promise can do when the odds are stacked. Because sometimes, the only thing standing between a bully and your home is the courage to read the fine print and refuse to back down. You'd think after the reform vote and Karen's exit, things would settle down. Like maybe the neighborhood would just go back to porch lights, backyard cookouts, and lawn mowers humming on Saturday mornings. For a while, it did feel lighter. The board meetings weren't packed with tension anymore, and for the first time, you could actually hear laughter in the community hall instead of whispers. Earl took up walking his dog again. He told me he didn't have to check over his shoulder for clipboard commandos anymore, which made me laugh harder than I had in months. But you know how these things go. The fight's never really over when it's about power, pride, and other people's money. Within a couple of weeks, the new interim president, a guy named Russell, called for an open forum to address transition concerns. It sounded harmless enough, but my gut said otherwise. That's when Maya called me, voice low and a little worried. "Jason, keep your binder close and your eyes open. Karen might be gone, but her friends aren't." Sure enough, some old board loyalists tried to stir up the waters. They started rumors, stuff about me profiting from the reverter clause, about backroom deals with the developer. It all felt tired, desperate, like a last gasp for control. I didn't rise to it. Instead, I did the most boring thing possible. I published every document, every invoice, every city letter, straight to the neighborhood website. Full transparency, nothing held back. People could see for themselves, no edits, no spin. And maybe for the first time, folks realized this wasn't some hero story or petty vendetta. It was just a guy, sick of being pushed around, who read the rules and refused to blink. Some neighbors apologized for keeping their distance before. Renee even brought over a pie with her kids' names spelled out in M&Ms. It's funny how, when fear gets replaced by facts, the whole place feels different. The real twist, though, came one humid August afternoon. I got a call from a number I didn't know. Turned out it was the state auditor's office. They'd gotten wind of what happened in our little subdivision and wanted to interview me about systemic issues in HOA governance. I almost laughed, thinking of Dad and his old stories about fighting City Hall, except this time, it was City Hall calling me. That interview kicked off a quiet storm. Auditors showed up, asking to see HOA budgets going back years, work orders, even emails about drainage maintenance. Maya coached me on what to share, what to flag as irregular, and made sure every conversation was in writing. The audit pulled threads I didn't even know existed: misused dues, phantom contracts, money that seemed to evaporate the second it hit the reserve fund. Every answer they got raised 2 more questions. Meanwhile, the community started coming together in ways I'd never seen. Folks who used to just nod at each other over hedges were now swapping phone numbers, organizing cleanup days, even planning a fall block party. That old basin thing, one that started the war, became a sort of symbol. We set up a rotation to check it after storms. Kids painted a little sign with a frog on it. and the city inspector even stopped by with donuts one morning just to say thanks. But, of course, there was backlash. Karen's diehards posted angry rants online. A couple tried to sue me for emotional distress, and someone even left a threatening note in my mailbox. I wasn't scared, I was just tired. Tired, but stubborn as ever. Maya kept reminding me. They're losing control, so they're throwing rocks. Just duck and keep walking. The final showdown happened sooner than I thought. One Friday night, the new board called an emergency session after the state's findings came in. The report was brutal, over $50,000. In unaccounted-for expenses, fraudulent assessments, years of skipped maintenance masked by fake work orders. Russell, to his credit, didn't try to cover it up. He read the whole thing out loud, voice shaking by the end. That night, nobody wanted to argue about who was right or wrong anymore. They just wanted to fix it. The board voted to repay the misused funds out of the HOA's bond, set up a real ethics committee, one run by residents, not insiders, and agreed to quarterly audits by an outside firm. Karen's old guard quietly faded away, some selling their homes, others just slipping into the background. The weirdest part? I wasn't even angry anymore. Sitting on my porch, watching Earl and Renee's kids race their bikes under the streetlights, I felt something I hadn't felt since my dad was alive, actual pride. Not for myself, but for everyone who finally stood up, even if it was just by showing up and signing a petition. That's all a community really is, people who refuse to back down when the stakes are their own front doors. Weeks passed. The grass grew back, the basin stayed clear, and the fear, the thing that made everyone so careful, so small, just sort of dissolved. One evening, Maya stopped by with a bottle of cheap champagne. "You know," she said, grinning, "you could have just ignored the first fine and moved. But then none of this happens." I shrugged. Dad didn't raise me to duck and run. He always said, if you want to keep something, you have to fight for it. Even if that means getting your hands dirty and your name dragged through the mud. She laughed, and for once, I did too. If there's a moral to all this, maybe it's this. No rulebook, no board, no bully with a badge can stand up to a neighborhood that remembers its own backbone. Power's only scary if you let it hide in the shadows. Shine a light, show your work, and suddenly all the monsters shrink. So, if you're out there, fighting your own battle, don't let them scare you quiet. Write it all down, keep your receipts, call your neighbors. And when it gets tough, remember, sometimes the smallest crack in the wall is all it takes to bring the whole rotten thing down. Drop a comment if you've been there. Tell me your war stories, your wins, your losses. Because I'm telling you, you're never as alone as you think. And if this made you feel a little braver, share it. Someone else probably needs to hear it tonight. I'll keep the porch light on.